Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to ANN, American News Network. I'm your host, Vlad, and we have a special guest with us today, Jake Angeli. We call him the Maga Shaman. So, Jake, let's get right into it. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on, for giving us some time. I want to jump right into the questions that I think people want to know. And number one is there's this, how can I phrase it correctly? A false information about you that you are a federal plant. I find it funny. How would a federal plant that did, what was it, 24, 28 months in prison?
27.
27 months in prison. Now, I personally, when everything happened, I ran into some of your friends who grew up with you. That's how we have some mutual friends. And so I know you. I've met some people that you grew up with. But where do you think this story comes from, and why is it even out there?
Well, there's a lot of people that have speculation because they found a old online profile for acting and voiceover work that I made, I think in 2019. And they think, oh, he's an actor. Oh, there's some people that are speculative because they say they saw me at a BLM or Antifa rally. What they fail to realize is that the image that was used to spread that rumor was an image where my sign that said Q sent me was cropped out, and they completely ignored the fact that I was there marching as a counter protester, marching with the police. I think that it's a deeper the thing. I think it's something deeper, though. I think at this point, because of the nature of psychological warfare, people don't know what to believe anymore, and they don't want to feel fooled or bamboozled. So they will be skeptical of anyone and everyone that is pushed on the people. Now, the Mockingbird media chose to make me the face of January 6th. And so now everything I think, say, or do, or everything I've ever done in my life is suspect and subject to scrutiny. And that's, because, like I said, people don't know what to believe anymore. And this is something Yuri Bezmenov talked about when he talked about demoralizing a society so that they don't know what to believe, that it's about saturating the environment with misinformation and disinformation so heavily that real information ends up becoming obscure.
Okay. Makes sense. It just I often so my wife is from the Ukraine. My grandparents are, from the Ukraine, but like then we lived in Russia. I was born in Kyrgyzstan, but I came here very young. When the conflict in Ukraine started, I didn't know much about it. At first I was like, yeah, what Putin is doing is wrong. But then I'm like in the middle. I'm not on that side or on that side. And I've noticed whenever I argue with the pro-Ukrainian side, automatically they've been programmed. You're being paid by Putin. You are like they honestly in Ukraine believe that Tucker Carlson is bought and paid for by Vladimir Putin. And he never praised Putin. He just called out Zelensky's BS. He never said, "Oh, I agree with what Putin's doing, but hey, you're stealing our money. You're arresting pastors. You made Christianity illegal. You said you're fighting for democracy, but you canceled next year's elections." Nope, you've been purchased by Putin. So I understand where you're coming from, people, and but it's again to the people. I know a lot of people that you grew up with, a few people, right? And yeah, I've seen when you grew up with them, I seen the pictures, and even they were like, it's crazy that there are these rumors going around. But like you said, people are so brainwashed today by the media, by the corporate media, by big companies. They'll believe anything and everything. Next question is, so they are going after Donald Trump for January 6th. We have a new Speaker of the House. So Kevin McCarthy, when he became Speaker, he promised to release the tapes. He released just a couple hours to Tucker Carlson. That is why Tucker Carlson was fired. Those are his words. And so,
Forgive me. Sorry about that.
You're good. You're good. So we have a new speaker. Do you think if they release all the footage, right? If the new speaker releases all the footage and makes it public, will it help or hurt Trump?
Oh, I think it'll help because it would offer the opportunity to completely dissolve the J6 narrative. I believe that there's a lot of people that took the stand in federal court in some of these trials that knowingly lied and perjured themselves on the stand. And that's part of the reason why they don't want the J6 footage released. I also think that there's a large amount of exculpatory evidence in there that the people think about it like this. There's 44,000 hours worth of footage. Okay. We have at least 40 million people in this country that want to see that footage, that are America First, Trump supporter, MAGA, whatever you want to call it, which means that that footage will be devoured in the snap of a finger. Okay. The DOJ and the prosecution are banking on the notion that there's no way any of these defense attorneys are going to be able to comb through all that footage in enough time to find exculpatory evidence, you see, or enough time to find out where these people actually were on the day of January 6th based on the timestamps and the video footage and all that stuff versus what they were saying in court. So I want you to think about the implications here. Imagine if there was a FBI agent or a confidential informant or something like that, or a Capitol Police officer that took the stand, whether it be in a trial or testified before the J6 committee, and they said all sorts of stuff that weren't true and proven by the video footage. Imagine how damning that would be to not just have to declare a mistrial and get somebody to say, for example, Proud Boys out of jail or something like that, but also how that would end up resulting in the indictment, not just of the system, but of the person that perjured themselves. Then there would actually be a very real conspiracy, because then the prosecution would basically be on the hot seat, and because the person that's perjured themselves would be like, look, dude, I'm not going down on my own. You told me to say this. This is what I did. And now you're going to go down with me. You see? Yeah. So the implications are astounding. And I think that's part of the reason why McCarthy didn't release all the footage, why he just gave it to the media so that they could have a win, in the media department and have a counter narrative. But the transparency and truth are largely synonymous with each other. And so there's no transparency in this government. Therefore, there's no truth.
It's interesting how the J6 committee, right, when Trump, after they were done with their whole thing, Trump gets indicted, his attorneys subpoena the information and their findings, they say they deleted it all. So they deleted it all because they know Trump did nothing wrong.
That's an act of obstruction. Yeah. That's obstruction of an official proceeding. That's destruction of evidence. You see?
And the only reason they would delete it is because they know what they have discovered will not put Trump in prison, but the other way around, right? And now we have the feds coming out and admitting that they had a bunch of feds in the crowd, right? They don't even know how many. We got that Ray Epps guy, right? I mean, that dude, I mean, how is he not in prison? Like the first one. After all this pressure, they indict him on misdemeanor charges.
I think it was just one.
One. Just to get people to, like they're treating him better than Hunter Biden. So, but a question about, did you run into Ray Epps?
No.
Yeah, he's. Like you could even tell the night before when he was screaming that people are like, he's a fed. Now, this one's kind of, let's go back in time a little bit before we go into the future. What was jail like for J6 political prisoners? What are they? How are they treated by other inmates, by the COs?
Well, the DC Gulag was drastically different than anywhere else I went. I never experienced racism until I went to the DC jail. But I was only there for 11 days. They couldn't accommodate my court-ordered organic diet, so I was transferred to Alexandria Detention Center in Alexandria, Virginia. There is where I spent the majority of my 10 and a half months in solitary confinement. For the most part, guards and inmates alike were curious. There was no real hatred or disdain. But I mean, it would make sense because think about it. It's not like a corrections officer in the federal prison system is going to vote for Biden.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the federal prison system is filled with inmates that love the federal government. So somebody like myself, a Trump supporter, and somebody like myself that's taking a stand against government corruption in the federal government, they're going to be curious. Now, there was, due to the Mockingbird media's narrative, a certain level of curiosity from minority races when I was in prison as to my ideology regarding race. They believed, many of them, not a lot of them, but many of them believed that I was a racist, white supremacist, Trump supporter, white extremist, yada, yada, yada. Basically, they believed I was a racist. And all it took was 5 minutes of talking to me to realize this guy's not a racist at all.
No, it's it's interesting where a country is, right now. I'm pretty sure here 3 years down the road after J6, I mean, we see Trump's poll numbers in African American communities, among Hispanics. I mean, no Republican has ever even come close. And so now I want to, the last part of our interview, I want to get into the future. I want to talk about the future. And here's something that has come. This isn't something I've heard somewhere. This is just, I think often. I pray, read scripture, I meditate on my family, on the country, on the future. And so I was thinking about Trump. What are these globalist Satanists going to do? They see that number one, I came to the conclusion, more than they fear him, they are jealous of him. More than their fear of him is they have a jealousy of him. Meaning, the media is against him. He's supposed to be this racist, this bad guy who's going to start World War III. Then Hillary Clinton and Obama leading up to 2016, they did everything to destroy him. And they're doing everything still now with the sexual assault allegations, with the being an ally of Putin, with the, rigged all this. And then they see whenever Trump does a rally or whenever he goes anywhere, he's greeted with Trump 2024 flags, with people wearing Maga hats. And at the same time, they see whenever they go anywhere, they are also treated with Trump 2024 flags, with MAGA hats, except these people are waving to Trump. These people are giving them the middle finger, but waving the same Trump 2024 flag. And I think it is their jealousy of him more than anything else, because they want that love. They pretend to care for the African American community. They pretend to care about the Hispanics. AOC, remember how she cared about the migrants, those fake photo ops of her crying. So I think they understand that if they take him out, or if they stop him from running, or if they cheat, so obviously it's not going to slide. People are just hanging on by a thread. Do you think there's a possibility that they might? Now, I believe God is going to step in and Trump is going to win either way. That's my personal opinion. But do you think because they think so long term, they could come to a place to where they're like, okay, we're just going to put up with him for 4 more years? Because let's face it, the Republican establishment is so dumb. They don't have anybody lined up after Trump. We see DeSantis' true colors. Vivek, you look into him, he's owned by BlackRock, right? All these people falling for him. Do your research. But you see, and we don't have anybody after. The only one that I think maybe Matt Gaetz. But do you think the swamp would ever allow and be like, you know what, we'll put up with him for 4 more years, and then after that, we're just going to destroy him because we don't want to go against the people, because we understand if they rise against us, that's an end to everything that we've built? What do you think?
Well, this is why I advocate that people stop thinking just 6 months to a year ahead, that we need to start thinking decades and centuries ahead.
There we go.
And this is a question I've proposed to many people. Okay, let's just say Trump gets in 2024. Then what about 2028? Who's your guy going to be? Certainly not a swamp creature, certainly not a career politician, Republican shill. Give me a break. What we need is another person like Trump that knows their shit and has brass balls and is willing to do something about it, to basically exercise the knowledge that they have, to implement their wisdom and their experience in a way that is irrefutable. And I think that the systemic issues, the systemic corruption can only be remedied by a couple of things. And that is certain legislation, because we got ourselves into this mess with legislation, we can get ourselves out with legislation. Number two, obviously, we need somebody in the presidency that's willing to sign bills into law that are passed by the Congress. Number three, we need to create a whole new infrastructure, because the current infrastructure is not only causing disease in human beings, it's not only destroying the planet and causing mass extinctions among the life forms on Earth, but it's making ecosystems unlivable for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. And it's also centralizing power, it's centralizing energy, communications, medicine, food, water, you name it, transportation. All of these things are being centralized.
Yeah.
And obviously currency is also an issue, the Federal Reserve Bank and the issuing of currency from a debt-based currency. So I think a whole new infrastructure is necessary. And the only way that's going to happen is if we have the right people in the Congress and in the White House. And that also means dismantling the bureaucracy and consolidating it, shrinking down the federal government, restricting its power and its movement. Clarence Thomas once said that, I believe it was Clarence Thomas, once said that the average American citizen breaks 6 federal laws a day. What? Like there's way, then that means there's way too many federal laws. Yeah. That's what that means. Okay. So if all we have to keep the government in line, if the only rules we have for the government are a couple of sheets of paper, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they break those laws all the time, then why the hell are we trusting them to fill our homes all the way to the ceiling with laws and bills, over and over and over again over the last several decades? And why is it we're not going over those antiquated laws and getting rid of them? So I think that in order to really move forward, we're going to start having to think decades and centuries ahead. And the only way to do that is to have a new infrastructure, that one that decentralizes energy, transportation, communication, medicine, currency, food, you name it.
Yeah. Well, what you just said is it's interesting, because I've been thinking about this for a while. I mean, but I'm going to come at it a little bit from a biblical point of view. And a lot of people Christians don't even understand when God says, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he said it, well, like he's speaking way down the line. He's talking about the father, and then your son, then your grandson, then his son. So don't just plan for yourself, but don't forget, I also there. And so, but we are so focused on ourselves and how my life's going to be materially. And people, I don't know if it's maybe lack of awareness or just laziness, refuse to invest into their kids. Many parents just, they're there to, eat dinner with them, maybe go to the park sometime, but to really invest in your kid so that your kid grows up to do something better for the world. And that is something, I'm raising 4 daughters myself, and that's my number one concern is, what am I going to leave for them? What will I impart on my kids that just keep something that's going to outlive me? When I'm gone, these values are still going down. Maybe my name is even forgotten, but these values that I instilled in my family lineage that help them and those around them. Now, that's a great purpose to live for. And you live like that, it's just going to spread and spread and spread. right? Just like
Well,
evil.
in the Native American tradition, they have a policy where whenever they come to a crossroads, they ask themselves, how will the decision that we make now affect 7 generations from now? And
There,
if they
yeah,
believe that it will be negative, then they don't make that decision. They do something else. So
that's
they're always thinking about the future and their children. And that's not something we do here in the West because we're not trained to. We are not educated to do so. It is not a part of our cultural paradigm to think, how will what we're doing now affect 7 generations from now? And that's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking centuries ahead.
yeah,
I'm thinking decades ahead. And the only way that we're going to get out of this mess is if we start doing that, because the globalists, the less than 1%ers that are trying to enslave humanity and own and control all the resources and labor, those individuals, oops, sorry about
no,
that,
no problem.
those individuals are actually the ones thinking decades and centuries ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
So the only way that we can do anything about it to stop them is to do so ourselves.
yeah. Ever since like the 2020 election, I was, I started following the Arizona audit. That's how my whole YouTube thing started. I was the first one out there as an independent journalist, and I've been saying, and people got mad at me for this. I lost subscribers, but I said, okay, what happens after Trump? Because Trump gave us MAGA, right? America first. He kind of like woke it up in the nation. But he's old. He's not a young guy anymore, right? And even look at him today, and look at him when he was running in 2015. You could tell he's tired. You could tell he's had enough. He's fed up. But like he even says, I'd love to leave this, but I love the country too much. So he understands, like he's thinking beyond himself, which is great. But now, last but certainly not least question of this interview is, so we have now officially 1 year and 4 days until the 2024 presidential election. We've been seeing how ever since Biden got indicted, how they are just steamrolling against Trump, against we the people, where you see the DOJ, FBI. I mean, Trump woke us up to the fact that the media is corrupt in his first 4 years, but no one ever thought the FBI and DOJ were this bad until, after the 2020 election. What do you think? What are your predictions for this year politically? What do you think they're going to try to do, not do? Do you think they'll put Trump behind bars? Do you think they'll actually go that far?
I think that both sides are getting desperate. That includes the Patriots and that includes the swamp. That includes the less than 1%ers and that includes the 99%. I think that we are dealing with people that would rather destroy the world than lose control of it.
Yeah.
And people that are willing to do anything and everything necessary in order to maintain their illusions of power. What's to come? I really don't know. I know that I trust God and that I have seen visions of the future in the past, and that I think that we're on the right timeline. There is a concerted effort to enslave humanity, and it is intense, and it's only ramping up even more intensely and even more strong. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is that these less than 1%ers, these globalists, these New World Order types, they're not doing this ramp up because they're confident or because they're strong. They're doing it because they're afraid and because they are weak. Okay? That's why they need to project this illusion of control, this illusion of strength and power. That's why they're trying to keep the boot on the neck of humanity. But the thing is, the more they put the boot on our neck, the more they force it down, the more their face comes into the light. And we get to see the face behind the boot, which we never really got to see before. I think that the more they try to back humanity into a corner, the more they back themselves into a corner.
Hmm.
And I think that as time goes on, they're going to end up finding that their plan, it's a bad joke.
Hmm.
Okay? It really is. And their attempts to maintain the old systems are going to fail because we're in the age of Aquarius, for God's sake. It's not the age of Pisces. Okay? And the same systems of subversion and control that maintained the old system are falling away. And we're talking about cosmic shifts. We're talking about energetic shifts, frequency shifts. And we are at the whim of those frequencies and those energetic shifts. And that includes them as well. And they're going to suffer the more they try to hold on to the old system. And that also goes for people that are a part of the Patriot MAGA movement. We don't want to go back to the way things were. That's what got us into this mess. What we want to do is create something better. What we want to do is create something that makes the old system obsolete, something that creates independence, not dependence, something that creates surplus and abundance, not scarcity and famine. What we want to do is create something that is symbiotic with the environment, not parasitic. What we want to do is create something that is decentralized, not centralized. And going back to the old system, to quote Terrence McKenna, business as usual is not on the menu.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally understand. Like even when Trump says "Make America Great Again," he doesn't mean. I don't think he talks about like the old system, but like how they're like for us. We came here in 1998. I was 6 years old. Uh, Up until like 2013, no one ever talked about race or just everyone lived normally. There wasn't this no control um of people's speech. But one thing I do want to end on, and I as an immigrant, it sucks to say this, but I think this is a video that's going to get a bunch of views and people can share this part. I am an immigrant. This country took me in and my family legally. We went through a 5-year process. We came here with $40, mom, dad, 4 kids. 4 days after being here, my dad starts a roofing job for like $4 an hour, right? This is 98. So we never got no handout from the government, nothing. They took us in. 10 years later, we became citizens. But I think immigration needs to stop for a while completely. If we want to save this country, there is a huge difference between when my parents came here and the immigrants that are coming. And I don't care where they come from. When we came here, it was just a few years after the fall of the Soviet Union. People wanted nothing to do with that culture of the Soviet Union, communism, to bring it into America, that control. So when we came here, we understood we have to take on the culture of the United States. And we need to get culturalized the way they are. We need to learn English. They're taking us in. We're not taking them in. And so, but if you look around the United States now, the more modern Ukrainians, they want everyone screaming glory to Ukraine, and you have to be on the side of Ukraine. You see Russians coming in, they have the same mentality towards Russia. You see people from Islamic states who are running for office and saying we're going to bring Sharia law to everything. These are different immigrants. Many of them are even from the same country I came from, but the mentality is different. There's been such a long stretch between the fall of communism to today. They've lived without communism. It's been a little bit better. Now they want to bring it here, whatever they got going on, whether it's Islam or, Eastern or these European countries. Look what's happening. London, when they have these protests, it looks nothing. It's like you're in Pakistan. I believe immigration needs to be stopped for a while, complete stop. Like and I'm saying this as an immigrant. There's a difference between when I came here and the people that are coming here now. When we came here, we didn't want to change America. We wanted to change ourselves and conform to the United States, and 90s were much better, like, civilly than they are now. People coming in now, they wanna change the United States, and they're openly saying it. They're speaking about it, and this I believe is also a big role that the one percenters are using to bring America to its knees and to destroy her.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I totally agree. That's part of their plan is mass migration, mass illegal immigration, bring the country to its knees by overwhelming the system.
yeah. Well, Jake, I appreciate you. Are you on Rumble, YouTube?
I'm on a couple of things. You can find me on Twitter at America Shaman. That's at America Shaman
We'll
on
leave
X or
links down
Twitter.
below in the description.
Okay. I'm also on Rumble. You can find me a couple of different places. The Occult Apocalypse Show. You can also find me at Yellowstone Wolf AZ, all one word, Yellowstone Wolf AZ. You can also find me at Forbidden Truth Podcast. And if you want, you can also go to my website, forbiddentruthacademy.com. That is forbiddentruthacademy.com. At forbiddentruthacademy.com, we have all sorts of free courses. You can watch my podcast for free. You can watch my interviews for free. There's literally dozens of hours at this point of free content. There's also some awesome merchandise. You got to check it out. Some of it's really funny.
Yeah.
Some of it's really cool. And you got my book on there as well, One Mind at a Time, A Deep State of Illusion by Jacob Angeli. I recommend anyone and everyone read it. It is affordable. It is a short book. It's only 150 pages. It will blow your mind.
Links are all down below, ladies and gentlemen, to all of his websites, podcasts, merch store, all of that. Thank you again, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.